Hi everyone, my name's Pieta Valentine. I've written 2 books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. Today's session is on moderate level anger. This of course is when it gets very difficult, when the anger picks up, because it's quite difficult to settle with someone with dementia, with men and women, I have to say. Sometimes we think that men are the more aggressive, but actually I've found in the unit that it's the men that have the outbursts of anger and the women that have the sustained anger. Like men might have an outburst, which of course can cause a lot of damage with that aggression. And women can just go all day, yelling, shouting, screaming. I've never seen anything like it. They'll sustain it all day, where I've never seen a man do that. So with moderate level anger and how to help that, it's difficult, it's really difficult. Please go back to the first video on low level anger, on the discussion there, to keep implementing that. Once it escalates, the person actually, once it's escalated to medium, the resident themselves has to make some effort to settle it. It's like all of us, when we get angry, we have to make effort to turn it around. We can't be angry all the time, but it takes a lot of tolerance to rein in anger. And it's the same for people with dementia. To rein in anger takes enormous discipline. I've witnessed one man being able to do this, so I will give this example because it is actually possible, but not easy, but possible. So this is, I must say, the only example I've seen of a man being able to do this at moderate level anger, but it was very impressive, and it made me realize that it can be done. So this man was from the military, a lovely guy, tall, broad-shouldered, pleasant, and the women all liked him as a result. And, because the majority are women at a dementia unit, and he was younger, in his late 70s, and they were like late 80s, sometimes in their 90s. But he was very pleasant to everyone, and the women were very good with him. Not overbearing, but, just nice and friendly. But there was one woman, and she just bugged him, really harassed him, shadowed him, we call it. But really, this woman was a minx, and it was intentional shadowing. She'd come to me and say, look, I look younger than the other woman, I'm better than them, I'll get him one day. She was just, I don't know whether she was like that before she came into the unit, but anyway, she'd just snake around him the whole time, and he used to get really brassed off because he had a wife who he loved, who visited regularly. She was very supportive, and he was very good with the residents, but she was just a real pain. He'd sit in one place and she'd sit opposite him, stare him out, and follow behind him in the corridor, less than a metre back from him, etc. Anyway, it used to rile him because he'd tell her to get out, get away, but she wouldn't. Wouldn't listen to the staff, wouldn't listen to anyone. And apparently I wasn't there, I wasn't witness to this, but the staff told me. And this one day, he just let loose. Well, because he just was so angry that this woman just wouldn't stop pestering him, and he went for her. But his son was there, thankfully, and restrained him, apparently. It's the only time the son said to me that he'd seen his father like that, and he was able to pull him off her. So there was no reporting on it. There didn't need to be any reporting on it. There was no incident. It wasn't put in the notes as far as I know, because no one was injured. That was the good part of it. And this is where relatives help. If they can prevent events, if they can prevent negative events or aggressive events, it's not recorded or charted, then the person doesn't need to be medicated because of it. They can just carry on in the unit, which is what happened. Because otherwise, if the person is aggressive, if he had been aggressive to that woman and she'd got hurt, it would have had to be noted in the charts, it would have had to be reported to the doctor, and chances are either medication would come in, he would have to be medicated, or go on to a higher level D6 facility, as we call it in New Zealand, where there's more restraints and a much lower quality of life even than the D3. So because his son had restrained him, there was no event recorded, he was okay. Then after that, this guy, he was amazing. He knew what he'd done. He knew it wasn't good. He couldn't remember the details, but he did say to me, you know, he did say to me, look, Pieta, I have to ring my wife, because otherwise, if I get angry, the results are not good. So he knew he had to keep himself reined in. He made so much effort, actually, because this woman still kept bugging him, and he had to put up with it. But we put in a neighbourhood watch process. I went to speak to his neighbour. She's a lovely, glamorous woman. And we decided to sort of make up a bit of a team, her and another woman, so that when this minx of a lady used to come and bug him, she'd come and get herself between this guy in the military and this woman, so it gave him some reprieve, and call out to the staff if necessary. So she was sort of on the watch to be able to protect him. Actually, it worked. It only took a couple of days, and this woman just got so brassed off with other women being in between her and this man that she couldn't be bothered pursuing it anymore. It was actually a really effective technique. So anyway, but still, this guy kept working on his anger, kept honing himself in, reining himself in, never had another incident, never got angry again. Actually, he's a really compassionate guy, this guy. Very good to other residents who are unwell. But the thing is, staff have very little patience for anger in men. Yeah, very little tolerance, you know, for it. Many people are like that. They don't understand how difficult it is for men to turn around their anger, especially if you have dementia. And the effort this guy made, he was just unbelievable how he turned it around, and he kept making the effort. We used to discuss all these things at the workshops, of course, about tolerance and the importance of controlling your anger and reining yourself in, and you know what the repercussions. I used to tell them the repercussions, that if they got angry and there was an incident and they were aggressive, they would have to go to another unit or medication happened. I was very honest with the residents, and they always appreciated it. So that's why it's good to be like this with your parent too. Tell them they need to know the repercussions of their actions, you know, because otherwise how else can they get orientated to what's going on? At least they have a chance of being able to turn things around. So this guy did turn things around, and he ended up being a leader in the group. He was a real inspiration. He was a role model. The women loved him, and you know, I'm not there now, but he was there for a good 2 years when I was there, and because of that, he was enabling other women to have a better quality of life. He had been in the forces, so he used to protect them as well. If other people or other residents were aggressive, he'd always go in and make sure to break it up. You know, and he was so interesting, his life experiences. These residents, you know, the lives they've had and the interesting stories they can tell you, it is so amazing. And he always had interesting stories to tell. And the group accepted him as their leader. They didn't initially, because he had some difficulty with speech aphasia, and he couldn't get his words out well, and they were a bit impatient with it. But after a while, they began to realise the calibre of his character and accepted him as the sort of leader of the group. And he was such a positive influence. You know, we are one, we're a family now, we're united, you know, we can do it, we can think, you know, we can tell, you know, the world how it's possible to turn things around. And, you know, we have a lot of knowledge here, and it's good if others know about it. All of this I've put in the book, of course, you know, from my observations and experiences, of course. And, you know, that things can turn around even with, you know, anger at moderate level, if the person has insight, if they make the effort. And he did have a supportive family, son and wife, etc., etc. Thank you. Time's up. Thank you for your looks and subscriptions subscriptions, and the next video will be on high level anger. Thank you.